everyone. Hopefully this is not a waste of your lunch break and you're like wide awake and with your tummies filled in. So I am great at making talk titles. Hope you like this one. That is the best slide you're going to see. Leading people that lead project is a talk that came out of necessity. I moved to Germany recently, April this year, to start a new indie studio in Potsdam, Babelsberg, and this is all about the approach that I took into that process. So first things first, emotional quote, very inspirational. I picked John Cleese. For those of you that don't know, he was one of the co-founders for Monty Python as a writer, very funny guy. And he has this book called Creativity, where he stated that creativity simply means new ways of thinking about things, and that the way to be creative is just to try to do something different from whatever it is in that status quo. That for me meant to think about creativity very differently, because as you can see, my path in games started with me thinking about myself as a person that creates things. I started at Fine Arts in Lisbon. I did art multimedia, path to animation, wanting to be this amazing short film indie director. I was going to be great at it, and eventually a friend from the same degree was like, yeah, but like, I don't know, you feel like a producer. Do you want to come in and just join this passion project of mine, Black Algae Games? We're going to do this awesome, very difficult game that never came out. And I said yes, knowing absolutely nothing about games. I read it all in a book of, it was called Produção de Jogos Digitais, as a game production made by some Portuguese teachers. So good book, recommend. That's everything that I knew. Failed very spectacular in my process. But eventually that led me to a path where I joined La La Land, which was as an interactive designer, making interactive children books. And around that time, joined the local community, started to get interested about it, doing all the game jams, etc. And from that, I was like, okay, now to make sure that I'm a game person, master in game design and development, this is going to be the best thing ever. Never deliver the thesis, but joined their monkeys right after. And in that process, from assisting with production, becoming the producer for our main title back then, Out of Line, to studio director of that company. That was the first time that I needed to learn that lesson of what it is like to maybe stop being the one making the games and directing the projects and being all creative, and caring more about your people and what you have around you. And it was hard to let behind the idea that I was an artist and that was everything that I ever wanted to be, and that maybe I was too creative to be in this management role. But in that process, I just made peace that creativity was part of it. So I was going to go through the problems of that, and for me it was figuring out a way to think differently about myself. From like, that sounds like a politician, but I'm telling you, it's like I'm search leader, that's what it could come up. Blame Canva. Navigating being inside and outside of the team. What is that process when you are part of the team, I'm going to break a plant. You are part of what the people that are making the game and the project, especially when you're indie and everyone wears all the hats. But also you need to be a little bit outside and have that outside perspective. And then figuring out your path between freedom and direction. When should you step in and when should you step out? We definitely want to avoid game designing by budgeting or scheduling or just putting what you think is the best idea forward. So this is the framework that I intuitively started introducing and developing and using in my day-to-day life. it wasn't on purpose, but then I searched. Wikipedia says it is a real thing. So welcome to creative leadership. So creative leadership is basically this framework of working cooperatively to develop innovative ideas. And what does that mean for you as a leader and leaders in your projects, your teams, your studios, is that you are the facilitator of that creative environment. And being a facilitator of creativity is not just about, you know, having the bean bags and the snacks in the afternoon. It's about creating mental spaces and places where people can talk and communicate and engage with each other in a way where failure is possible, where ideas are free-flowing, and where the environment sustains that creativity. So we're going to talk with you guys about those different concepts, and then by the end of this, hopefully, we're going to connect them all into how they connect into games and to games in our games work. So around creative leadership, there are three complementary thought processes: the facilitating creativity, directing creative vision, and integrating diverse creative contributions. What does this mean? Facilitating creativity is, I hope, the easiest one, just making sure that you are letting others be creative, supporting others to do their best work. Directing a creative vision is whenever you are the one that are the vision holder and you are the one that has to direct your entire team into making what you are telling them to do in a way, but also how can you do that in an integrated way, which goes to integrating all the contributions. So for example, you can see that a facilitator is just, the team does all the creative work and you do whatever it takes to support that. For directing, it would be something like you are conducting an orchestra, for example. It is your vision, everyone is following it, and integrating everything. It is more so what we would do when you have a creative director that is just putting together everything that comes from different departments and making sure that everything makes sense. So in this facilitating first step, you want to make sure that you are supporting your individuals, your team, to be the primary creators. And that is the one that relates more to being outside of the team, right? Even though if you are in the studio, you are the CEO, but you also the lead programmer. So it's like, how can I divide those two roles in me? Just make sure that you created all the spaces that make sure that other people can put their own voices forward. Ways that you can do that is have discussion spaces, systems where they can put their own inputs forward, things like retrospectives when you have all of the ideas that come forward be first, or make sure that you give your opinion last, and so forth. On directing, you need to make sure that within everyone that is here in the team, you are the one that understands that vision better than anyone else. So even if you are not the creative vision holder, the one that is putting things forward, if you are in that part of the role, you need to make sure that at least you are the one that understands and makes everyone else understand and follow you. For whenever you are in this role, the idea is that you get to that understanding of vision through conversation and collaboration with everyone else. It's not okay if like someone else is another page of the conversation and suddenly you're just saying, oh no, like all this time I was already thinking like this is the right direction and everyone was going on another one. So definitely make sure that directing is about you communicating as much as it is about hearing others. So I would say that facilitating is hearing first. deleted it. and and that directing is about communicating first. And then whenever you go to your, in the integrating mindset, is just figuring out how can you not just hear what everyone is communicating, but can you synthesize it to that vision that you had first. So it is not, if everyone is giving ideas that keep being different, keep being innovative, like, yes, we're doing this, but also, wouldn't it be great if there's like this other new mechanic, this new idea, this new business model, or why don't we also do AR games? Like, but we were all PC first, or we're a mobile game company, like we cannot do all the things. Make sure that they all direct back to your directive vision. And how does all those three conceptualizations work for us? I would say that facilitating supports the team first. So that is the mindset that you should use whenever you are in a team dynamic and making sure that you're part of the team and promoting the team. You should be directing when you are in the headspace of upholding the studio's vision. So not only if you are a studio director, but if you are just a lead of your team, of your department, you need to figure out where things need to be going. And you integrate all of those perspectives when you are thinking about the project itself. What is the project that we can make with the budget that we have, with the time that we have, with all these ideas and all of these creative, free-flowing thoughts that just happen. I'm going so fast, I'm doing great. So, having this framework as the main mindset for the creative production of my studio, I made sure that we had steps that would loop and repeat themselves to make sure that that creative approach was enforced into every structure of our studio culture. So first things first, building trust. For us at Telescope Games, it was very important when people got hired to understand exactly where the goals were, where we were at the company, especially being a startup, what the future could hold, what we were expecting from people. Being indie, you expect that everyone does everything, even though responsibilities are directed towards different people, but making sure that the trust was there, that if there was any limit, they knew exactly the tools that were available. For us, for example, we cared very much about being a no-crunch culture. So even in that process, it was like, okay, we have this hour sheet. It's not about you making sure that you work all the hours. It's about if anyone goes over this time, you are out of this office. Like no one stays longer, only for beers. And because we had that open communication early on, then they trusted that if anything is asked outside of that scope, it is okay to communicate back and to state their own limits. Through that, very easy to foster that culture of collaboration. Very well, easier to say than to be done. For us, was as much physical as it was mentally. Making sure that our space promoted collaboration, not only physically but digitally, that we have spaces to just have free flow conversations, to have documents where everyone could just throw ideas up there and there would be no judgment. And things like writing it wrong, because none of us had English as our first language. And that was it sounds like a very small step, but it was a very important thing for us to make sure that everyone understood that some words might be misspelled, and that was part of that collaboration process. And then whoever caught that, it wasn't, oh, so-and-so is making our life harder because documents are okay. Making sure that the feedback loop is structured from the beginning. Even though we're a very small team and sometimes it feels redundant, to have some of our check-ins, even though we don't do dailies, we still do beginning of the week, middle of the week, end of the week, and sometimes like, oh, I don't have anything new to say. And it's like, it's okay, we just use this 15 minutes to have coffee together and hang out a little bit and just ask, how's your project going? And right away, addressing conflicts is something that comes from that first idea that I told you about collaboration and what does it mean to make sure that we support each other in our roles. And sometimes conflict arises because we're not agreeing in the definition of things. So we have a glossary where whenever we don't agree what a word means or what a milestone means, whatever, why is this goal important, we make sure that vision was established, that everyone trusted that that was the right place to go towards, hopefully, and that conflicts are always encouraged to be brought up and to be solved when they appear. And right after that, make sure that we celebrate all the little things. I always make sure that whenever our founders said anything nice about a project or an update, a milestone, a screenshot that is like, guys, they just said like this is great. you congratulations. And make sure that you just don't do that whenever that is a big milestone, whenever, I don't know, you finally are in a showcase like this song, or it's just the things, and that the communication of the celebration goes towards the team as well. It just doesn't stop in you, the leaders. And you think, great, we're doing everything exactly right. Every step is taken care of. My team is so creative, so collaborative. We are crushing this. But then unexpected happens. People get sick a lot. And maybe you weren't planning something. Make sure that you are flexible, that you can create a structure where you thought about it, that you can plan, adapt your goals, and make sure that even in those situations, you maintain that spirit of creativity even in problems, right? Because that way, so you're like, oh, you figure out a way to solve the fact that 2 members of the team got sick for 2 weeks and we had a delivery to make and we fixed that. If we fix that when there was problems, we're probably going to be great when everything is going well. And last but not the least, make sure that you show your team as leaders that you are also continuously learning. For me, it's very important to be transparent in the things that I don't know, and letting them know that they're like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out, and ask for help. A good example of that, again, coming from being a dyslexic person that writes the worst documents ever, and it is my job to do them. I keep having my programmer that has a background in languages just saying, do you want me to just take a look? He took a look at all this presentation, so hopefully there is no mistakes here. And making sure that next time they do it, like there's some words that are like, no, they're good. And if you show that own ability to learn, to show your weaknesses to your team, they're also feeling that it is okay to fail. It is okay to put forward everything, even the crazy, weird ideas, and that it is your job to uphold that direction. And yeah, just showing you how we are right now. This is us at Telescope Games. This is Telescope animation, so we feel like we're bigger. And we do all of those creative spaces, visually, all the creative walls. Whale is programming a game. And hopefully in a year I will tell you how well this went. Opening up for questions.
Questions, I'll bring up a microphone, that way you don't have to yell and lose your voice. There's plenty of counts to go around today. So anybody have a question for Mafalda?
Hello Mafalda, great talk. So when you hired for this studio, was there basically what I'm trying to figure out is like, how do you get the buy-in from the founders into this, and how do you kind of keep it up? Or is it something that already came with the job that they knew that you were going to do this?
So, it's a lot of work to keep making sure that they see you, but also that you see them. So all of that process, it was the first thing I did even in the interview. So whenever, first thing I wanted to know is whatever was their vision for the studio. I didn't told you, but when I was hired, what they told me was like, so Mafalda, we only have a name and a bank account. There's nothing else. You need to build everything from scratch. And by the way, you need to move to Berlin. And then, have you lived in Berlin? And I'm like, no, I never visit. But like, how hard can it be? And and I moved and I put together IKEA furniture. And I think that constant conversation and making sure that I would check in as well. I would just say, hey, I'm thinking about hiring these people because they're great at this. And they will bring this vision into the table. I want to make sure that they feel included. I can give you an example. It took 4 months to have the entire team set up, which is 4 of us. It was like 1 person per month and being onboarded. And even though we didn't have a lot of time, we have like a 1.5 years development for this one first project. I told them, you are not allowed to touch Unreal until everyone is here and onboarded. So everyone had time to explore, to play the references, to make sure that we are syncing in with Animation Studio, because it is a collective IP. And to make sure that whenever they say, oh, but your story needs to match our story, and our story has this and that, we are completely integrated and we understand their vision, but also we can defend ours. And empowering, and I always, as my role as a producer, is like, you need to be the shield for your team. But I also, it is that part of like being inside and outside of the team. So I'm inside with them, making sure that we have a plan together, and then I go outside, make sure that I am the one communicating. And if anyone has any problems, they'll talk to me and I'll talk for hours. Yeah.
All right, anybody got follow up there?
Hi. What would you say is, because you were talking about things that can happen unexpectedly, right? Mm-hmm. And conflict resolution. What would you say is there something you witness that is not part of your group, or in your group that was an unexpected conflict that had to be resolved to make things going? Because when things go well, of course, everything's well and done. But sometimes you do have either unexpected behavior between people, or unexpected events on the outside of the company. So what would you say is the best approach when it comes to dealing with that?
So I have like 2 ways. One is I am very good at overthinking. So I just overthink everything, and I'm like, this can go wrong, and that thing can go wrong, and we need to prepare for this. And I think I panic my team more than they should for things, because then we go to the meetings with leadership, and they're like, oh, you guys are doing great, everything is amazing. And I'm like, maybe we shouldn't worry. But also maybe it was because we worried and we were prepared that everything like goes kind of well. But even though that happens, unexpected is like it's just game dev, and especially having this type of collaboration with your sister studio that kind of owns creative vision in certain ways, but not the others, because they own the IP but not the game. They will say, oh, but this doesn't belong to the IP, or we had this other idea and then we need to keep defending it. And then you thought, oh, we talked about this like weeks ago. And they were like, no, but we really wanted to go into this other direction. I take naps. we have a couch days whenever everything is completely overwhelmed. You just like, you take a step back and you think it through. And I go back to my team a lot. I just, not with the problems directly, again, you need to filter them. But like, okay, if people are expecting that we have this visual outcome, for example, because in their minds they don't quite understand the processes that we have in games. For example, the way that we are so adaptive, for them is so linear, and it's like, no, what the fuck? For them it's like, oh, it needs to be fixed now because And I'm like, no, I can change the player character like a week before I ship the game. It is okay, and it is a very hard thing for them to understand. It's just making sure that I make the time to keep that constant conversation and figure out what do they need. Because you cannot just like talk to someone to death, like until they listen to you. You need to figure out why they're not on the same page. That's also why we have the glossary. We have some terms that is like, the animation studio might use the same words, but it doesn't mean the same thing. I'm figuring that out while production goes, and that isn't unexpected, right? Because you're not expecting that someone is not as integrated when they started a game studio, for example. And yeah, I think you take it a battle at a time.